My paranormal experiences have been crazy and they have changed my life. And my name is Les Durrant. I was born in California. I was a military brat. I have moved all over the place. I lived in San Diego and mostly in Texas. And then I moved to Arkansas. And then I'm here in Georgia. My parents live nearby. My dad is actually down in Milledgeville in the VA. He was in the Navy and he's doing okay. He's 81 years old. And then my mom just also turned 81. She's here in Mineral Bluff with me. I live in Mineral Bluff, Georgia, which is about 5 miles from Tennessee and 5 miles from North Carolina. So I live in what we call the tri-state area. I'm going to go back to Lubbock, Texas. And I've always believed in ghosts and UFOs, but at the time, it was mostly ghosts that I was concerned about. I was married for 23 years and I had lost my wife. And due to just some diabetes and some problems that she had. And I work in radio. And so after a couple of years that my wife had passed away, I was working at this radio station and I kept seeing these shadow figures. Didn't understand what they were. Well, while I was doing this, I was also looking for, another girlfriend, another mate. And I thought about my girlfriend that I knew on the island of Guam when we were kids. And she was 13, I was 15. I had a crush on her and she didn't know it. Well, fast forward many years. This is back in 1980. Fast forward many years. Her husband, she was going through a divorce and I had lost my wife. And I told her, I said, hey, I just wanted to tell you I had a crush on you. And she said, hey, I thought you were the one that got away. And the reason why I say this is because we ended up getting married and she was in Idaho and I was in Texas and I looked her up and she came down and I told her about my shadow figure experiences. And she said, oh, I'm a ghost hunter up in Idaho. I've done ghost hunting up there. And I said, how'd you do that? And she said, with a phone. And it was really interesting because it was what we call EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. And it's very simple. Anybody can do this with your phone because your phone has a voice recorder. So we put both of our phones together and we asked, we said, and my wife's name was Shauna. She had passed away. And we said, Shauna, are you here? And on both of our phones, it said, yep. It just totally blew me away. From there, I was very interested in getting those EVPs because that was all I knew. This is back in about 2016 or so. And we got some good ones. The station used to be a Spanish station, and we even got an EVP saying "Que pasó," which was really cool. We had a few others that were just really amazing. So then fast forward to moving to Arkansas. We never really did any investigations down in Texas, but in Arkansas, we started to get more into it and getting EVPs to the point where we decided to get some ghost hunting equipment, like what they call a K2 meter, and I got what they call a tri-field meter and a few other things. And mostly you can use your phone to do ghost hunting. It's very simple. Before I go into the UFO stuff, with your phone, there is an app called Manual Camera, and it's free on the App Store or even Google Play. And you can use any HD DSLR camera that works good. What you want to do is you want to turn on the flash to where it says torch and where it's always on. And then go into the settings and change the settings to where it'll record constantly for about 45 minutes. Then take your phone and just move it around the house to see if you get any of these little orbs that come up. And they look like little circles and they're different colors and they do different things. And people say, oh, that's dust. Well, could be. But if you think about it, they're darting at you and they're coming towards your camera. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to say, hey, can you fly past this light for me and see if they do? I've had instances where they actually do that, and it's really neat. And I've gotten different colors. I've got blue, green, white, different color orbs. Even my mom saw one on my screen while I was recording it. So that one I call Mom's Orb. It's very beautiful. It's blue. I also have a YouTube channel that has all my videos where you can see some of the things that I've done. It's called Objects and Orbs, and I think that you would really like that. You'd be able to see some of the investigations that we've done. So in Arkansas, I had many different experiences with these EVPs. And so one time we decided to come down here to Georgia to a haunted house. Not the kind on Halloween, but the kind that has possible spirits. Well, my wife got out her camera, and my wife's name is Claudette, and she got out her camera, and she said, "Hey, I'm getting all these orbs." And I said, "Honey, you getting orbs?" And she said, "Yeah." They were flying all around her camera. We couldn't believe it. And we're at this place called Chastain House, and this is in Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's an old house that these doctors were experimenting with these kids back in the 1800s. This doctor had married, we'll just say a witch. That's what people called her, is a witch. 3 children died in this house, and so they haunt this house. Well, this house also has a lot of other different properties that are just kind of strange. But we went down there, and sure enough, we got orbs. And then every time we would say the girls' names, Sarah, Ruth, Allison, Rose, you could actually see the orbs go to the camera of the caretaker of the house. And he was sitting right next to my wife, and his phone started acting up. And you could see the orbs going into his phone, and he didn't know why. We didn't know why. It could be because we couldn't see him. But we would ask the orbs to fly around these little toys, and because that's what the kids like to play with. They don't know that they're dead. So they wanted to play with these toys, and so we would try to interact with them. And then we also have what's known as a spirit box. And a spirit box is a radio that goes through all the different frequencies, and you can hear the spirits talk through those frequencies. It's very fascinating as well. But one thing that you can do is to get an app, and I'm not trying to sell anything or anything like that, but the best app that we use is called Spirit Talker. Also, there's one called Perilous. So look for Spirit Talker or Perilous on the App Store or Google Play. All you have to do is to ask if they're here. Just say, "Hey, is there anybody here who would like to say hello?" Make sure to put your phone in airplane mode. That way you know it's not being affected by anything. The reason why I advise for these apps is because we watch these guys named Twin Paranormal on YouTube. They are the best paranormal investigators I've ever seen. They beat all of the other network based investigators. They totally beat them, and they get the best evidence. The reason why is because they are pleasant and polite to the spirits. So they will go in, "Hey, thank you for talking into our equipment. Thanks for being here. We appreciate talking to you." And the spirits will affect the equipment. And they do use Spirit Talker. They also use these little, we call little light up cat balls. They're little toys, but they move with vibration, but the spirits can interact with those. And you can get them on Amazon or whatever. They're really inexpensive, but if you look up ghost hunting light balls, you can see those. And they use those as well, complete with the K2 meter and the other things. So we have all of this. We've done all this at the ghost house. So that's awesome. We couldn't believe that. That was just really cool. So we went back to Arkansas, and I said, "Wow, if I can get these orbs, well, maybe I can get something else." I put some Velcro on one of my old cameras, and I put it on a stand, and I was going to aim it towards the sky to try to record some clouds because I just like that kind of stuff. I like watching the clouds go by. So what I did was I set my camera to record for about 45 minutes. And then when I was done, I transferred the file to my computer. And this is what I want everybody to do. Then I also use a program called SM Player. It's free. You can zoom in with it. You can do screenshots. You can pause. You can go frame by frame. There's a lot of different settings. It's great. It's also free. I try to use free software and free equipment, old phones, old computers, all of that. So then I was looking at that video, the very first one, and I saw some C-130s go by. And in Searcy, Arkansas, the C-130s are from Little Rock Air Force Base, so they fly in formation every single day. I saw 2 planes, and it was awesome. But I saw these little blips coming down beside them, and I was really kind of amazed at what it was. I thought they were birds or some bugs or something, but they were extremely fast, and they were following the C-130s. They were little orb-looking objects. They were white, and every time you could see the plane go by, the objects were faster than the plane. So some people have said that those were flares. Some people said that they didn't know what they were. With that, recently I've gone back and looked on that tape, and it's a 30-minute video, and I'm more than happy to give the link out to anybody. If you want to watch the entire link, it's free. I'll give it to you. It's on Google Drive. You can see different objects throughout the video, which is awesome. That kind of blew me away. So then from that day on, I started recording different videos. And in these videos, I would see these silver objects, and they looked like that they were taking pictures. Or they were little silver balls that had a white light on them. And they always look like they're looking around. And this is back in Arkansas. So to this day, I still see them, and I've got even crazier stories based on them. But let's go back to my first sighting and all of that. So I was very interested. I contacted MUFON. One of the investigators actually came to my house, and I gave him all of my thumb drives. He took it and is analyzing it. And then I decided to also contact Little Rock Air Force Base. So I contacted their public affairs office and said, my name is Les Durrant, and I have videos and pictures of objects following your planes. They kind of laughed a little bit till I sent them the pictures. And then they said, oh. And I said, I also have video, but I can't email it to you. It's too big of a file. I can drop it down at the gate. They said, sure. Well, I went down to the gate, gave it to the guy at the Air Force Base gate, and told him, I said, I've got this thumb drive of UFOs. They kind of laughed at me a little bit, and I said, why don't you call the public affairs office? They said, okay. And then I also showed them the pictures, and they stopped laughing. And they said, okay, Mr. Durrant, we're going to have you step out of the office. And we're talking, this is a military gate. Usually you can sit in there in the air conditioner and enjoy it. But they asked me, said, no, step outside. Well, they contacted the public affairs office, and one of the guards came out and said, yes, Mr. Durrant, we would love your thumb drive. So I gave my thumb drive to them, and of course, I haven't really heard anything. Then I started to continue to find these objects. So I came back down to my mom's house, and I used an old Motorola cell phone. I aimed it up to the sky, and upon watching the video, I saw this weird object roll down, and it looked like it was kind of pink, but it also looked like it had antennas. And it was very strange. It kind of rolled slowly. This one, I call it sat on because I've got a lot of different sightings. I have probably about 40 recordings of different sightings, but I've also seen some myself. That recording, I sat on it for a while until, honestly, this last year, even up to October. I sent it into MUFON, and they sent it back to me and told me it was unknown. So that's my first UFO. I actually have two unknowns with MUFON right now. Just a couple of days before Christmas, I decided to become a MUFON field investigator. So I'm very excited about doing that. I should be getting my manual here in a couple of days. That kind of stuff is just very exciting to me. It's very fascinating. And I'm going to let everybody know now I'm ADHD, so I kind of move around a little bit. But I've had scientists, I've had ufologists, and aerospace engineers, and people on TV look at my stuff and have given me a thumbs up, just love my work. And like I said, I'm more than willing to give out my links to anybody who wants them. Now, back to my UFO stuff. I have sent in quite a few cases, and I'm still waiting on those. But one day I was setting up my cameras, and this is how I do it. I have these old cell phones, and I'm using Samsung right now, but that doesn't matter. You can use any old ones that have a good camera. I got some Velcro from a big department store. I put the Velcro on the back of the phone. Then what I do is I've got door hinges. And if you can imagine big door hinges, like silver ones, if you put Velcro on those on both sides, then you can mount your camera and you can tilt it. So what I do is I stick my camera on the Velcro, I hit record, let it record, and I aim it up to the sky. And right now I've got about 8 phones that people have given me, but I would love to have more. I've been also given an iPhone 5, which takes very good pictures. Always, 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 when you record, landscape. Don't go up and down. I don't know why I see on the internet people are always using vertical shots, but on TV we watch full screen, big screen. So no, use a landscape. That's what I want you to do. Now you're going to aim it up to the sky. You're going to put your Velcro onto the door hinge. This is stuff you can maybe get around the house. When you're done, when the camera's full, you're going to take the camera and you're going to plug it in via the USB into your computer. And then it'll say allow. You just click allow. You're going to see your files, drag your files over to your computer, and then watch them with SM Player. And that's basically how I do it. But I will also let you know that at night, I also set my security camera to record the skies. I've got many different things that fly across as well. In fact, right now I'm recording the sky with a tripod and a Wi-Fi security camera. So the Wi-Fi security camera is aimed up north, as high as it'll go. So I do have a couple of trees in there for reference. And then I'll just go through with my app and hit record and then share that to my computer as well. I'm more than happy to explain any of this if anybody wants to get a hold of me. I don't know if I can give out my email address, but it's objectsandorbs@gmail.com. And my name is Les, and I'd be more than happy to help you get your stuff set up. At night, we have one of the best skies in the world. Remember, we are in North Georgia. I'm on a mountain. I'm 1,900 feet high, so I'm quite up high. I'm surrounded by trees. Not a whole lot of bugs. I probably had more bugs in Texas than I do here. But of course, we do have some in birds. I recently uploaded a bunch of my reference pictures, and I'm going to do that here in just a little bit as well, so you can kind of see. That way, when you watch my videos and look at my screenshots, you'll know where everything is aimed, and you'll say, oh, you can't say, oh, that's a parachute, because there would be no parachutes around this forested area where I live, or an air show. There's really no place to have one, because I've gotten those comments as well. But at night, I've seen these beautiful, brilliant objects that have these square lights on them, and they are like stars that move around, and they're very brilliant, and they change from white to red to sometimes orange, and then sometimes they're gone. But they go slow, and they sound like regular planes, but they don't have the running lights of planes. That's one thing I'm very excited about learning with MUFON. I'm very passionate about what I do, as you could probably already tell. There was one time where I was standing outside and there was an object that flew over the top of me, and it was just really scary. I wouldn't say scary, but it was say, okay, well, maybe it's my turn. The reason why I say scary is because I've talked to a lot of people that have seen UFOs. I've had people call me that have been abducted now, which is really weird. I don't know, because I kind of send out these emails and people will send them back and say, hey, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. Some of the experiences that have really affected me are one that I did for Halloween. This is kind of interesting. Let me rewind a little bit. I was asked to take my files and show them at a pizza place. They have a little alien room and UFO room, and they said, sure, bring all your equipment down and show everybody. So I showed them how I catch the ghosts, and with my phone and with my meters and with the spirit talker. And then I also showed some UFOs, and they loved that. And they said, hey, would you want to do a seminar at our Halloween festival? And I said, yeah, I would love to. So I went down to the Halloween festival, and there was a little 7-year-old girl, and she said, I like ghosts. And I said, yeah, let me show you some. And I said, they're not really, they don't look like, white sheets or anything like that. She said, no, I talk to them occasionally. I said, oh, well, that's great. And I wanted to tell you that if those ghosts ever bother you, you just tell them, say, hey, I'm sleeping right now. I have school the next day, and leave me alone. I'll talk to you another time. She really enjoyed that. And personally, myself, I've done that as well. I've done that with shadow figures. I said, hey, I know you're here. I'm busy right now. I know you're here. I appreciate you. Thanks, but I'm busy. She was looking at it, and she said, my mom doesn't let me like to look at ghosts. And I told her, so, well, I understand. Well, about that time, her mom was coming over. And I said, well, your daughter was looking at some orbs and stuff. And she said, oh, that's just dust. And I said, yeah, well, a lot of times it is. I said, but I do have a video of an orb turning off one of my pieces of equipment, my tri-field meter. It's a $200 piece of equipment. And she was watching it and watching it. And I was playing it back and forth. And her jaw just kind of dropped. And she gave me that look like, like, what is this about? And I get that look quite a bit, especially down here in the South. People, because of just your beliefs or whatever you think. And her jaw just kind of dropped a little bit. And then I said, would you like to look at some of my UFOs? And she said, sure. So I showed her the one at my mom's house that came back as an unknown from MUFON. She pointed at it and she said, look, look, look. And I said, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden she was silent, just like that. And she started crying. Tears were running down her face. And I said, ma'am, are you okay? And she still didn't talk to me. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. Are you okay? And she said, yeah. She said, they really are real, aren't they? And I said, yes, ma'am, they really are. And then she said, you have the best evidence I've ever seen. But she used profanity, but she said, you have the best evidence I've ever seen. Well, I said, well, thank you, ma'am. That was probably one of the best compliments I could have ever received. She was very moved by it. I think a lot of people who maybe who put down paranormal and UFOs, maybe have had an experience, but really don't want to talk about it. I have had a few of those people, and it's okay. And then there's some people who just don't believe, and you just have to have your own experience. But you have to get off your phone. You have to look up to the sky. And all I ask is, if you look up to the sky for 10 seconds a day, look for something, look for anything. Just look at the blue, make it happy. I'm going to tell you about something else that happened here at home that was very, very fun and interesting. So we sit out here on the deck and we're looking outside, and you can see North Carolina, and you can see the mountains, and you can see the trees of Georgia. That's where I live, but you can see North Carolina and Georgia and Tennessee from where I live. We sit up on the deck and just hang out and talk, and we get the spirit talker out, and we call it speaking with the spirits. Well, the spirit talker said one of the spirits was a poltergeist. And I said, who's a poltergeist? And it said Gary on the spirit talker. I said, okay, you talk to spirits just like you would a friend. And I thanked them. Thanks for talking to me. Really, that's really cool. So I said, okay, who's the poltergeist? And they said, Gary. I'm like, all right, if you're a poltergeist, I want you to move those chimes. Sure enough, they moved. And all right, Gary, that's cool. That's really awesome. Thank you. Well, fast forward to July 11th. That's my anniversary. And we were going to go out of town to a place called Helen, Georgia, which is a really cool German town. We were all excited. We were ready to go. My wife's looking for her debit card to put some gas in the car, and guess what? No debit card. Could not find it. Started freaking out. She got to where she was almost crying. We went down to Walmart because she thought that that's where the last place it was. Nope, they didn't have it. We went to where I work. It didn't fall out of her on the street. We couldn't find anything there. We came home. She was crying. I said, well, hon, how about if you transfer your money to my debit card? We'll just use it. Great. Okay. I looked for my debit card, and guess what? It's gone. It's gone. So she says, honey, get out the spirit talker. We need to talk to the spirits. We get it out. And I have this log. That's a good thing about Spirit Talker is that it has a log. So it says, first of all, I like talking. And then it said, can't breathe. Like, okay. And sometimes when these words come out, you tailor your conversation to what they are saying. So if it says can't breathe, then we say, hey, why can't you breathe? And then I would ask, who is this? What's your name? And we got a last name of Williams. Then we got a first name, Gary. Okay. Hey, Gary, nice to meet you. Remember we were talking about Gary, the poltergeist? Put that in the back of your head now. Okay. So then the spirit talker said Enid. Keep that in mind too, Enid. And then it said something to the effect of stress, money, and we were freaking out. So we said, okay, where is the debit cards? And then it said, right. So my wife turned right, and there was a stack of towels. And I'm sure you know the answer to what I'm going to tell you right now. The debit cards were in those towels. So now we're excited. We're getting ready to go. So I look up Gary Williams obituary. Type it in. You can type it in. Gary Williams obituary. And guess where he's from? My town of about, I think we probably have about a few hundred people. Mineral Bluff, Georgia. That's where he's from. He recently died. He was 80 years old, and he was a mining rescue supervisor. Remember, he can't breathe? Mining rescue. That's why he can't breathe. Remember the word Enid? Well, he was preceded in life by Edith, his wife. So we have a lot of parallels with Gary. So many times we'll come home. Hey, Gary, can you ring the chimes? Of course, Gary's ringing the chimes. Hey, Gary, can you stop the chimes? Yes. On the Spirit Talker, we get the name Williams all the time. So my point is with all of this is that spirits are always around us, and we think that Gary and his wife Edith are helping other spirits get through this area. We live on top of a mountain, and we live about a mile from an Indian stone circle. This is where the Cherokee Nation was, and we live right on the Trail of Tears, where the Trail of Tears started to where they migrated the Native Americans. So on this mountain here, I live on a mountain called Piney Mountain, and on this mountain there was a settlement of people, and we don't know how they interacted with the Native Americans, but many times I will get the word, we had a battle here, settlement, and sometimes I would get the word Scottish. And the thing about Scottish is there's a lot of people here that are from Scotland that came over from Scotland. This is the Appalachian area. So there's a lot of Appalachians here in this area. And so it gives you an idea of where we're at. And then there was one other investigation that we did, and this is also on my YouTube channel, called the Miller Investigation. We went over there, and the original request was that they had a spirit down in their bottom room downstairs that was okay to be there, but they wanted to find out who it was because they had a feeling that somebody was there. So we went there, we took all of our equipment, set it all up, and I gave one of my phones to the owner of the house. I said, here, I want you to look through the camera so you can see the orbs. And she was just amazed, because what I like to do is I like to teach what I do, how I do this investigation. And we saw many different orbs. We actually caught an EVP. We caught a shadow figure as well. And in the other room, it said something to the effect of somebody's here. It was just very incredible that it happened. So with that kind of thing, I'm very happy because I'm able to teach people this science and how we do it, and that anybody can do it. That's really the main takeaway of what I do. And I want you to not be afraid of the spirits, but just respect the spirits, and don't instigate them as well. So if you have Spirit Talk, or you have something out and you're recording, don't say, hey, come out here now, or else, or I command you. No, nothing like that. Or, oh, if you're so bad, do that. No. You don't want anything to attach to you. You don't want anything to bother you. But if you have stuff in your house that's moving around, that's probably a poltergeist, and they're just wanting to let you know they're there. And if you say, hey, that's cool, do it again. Can you do it again? Then they kind of change their mind a little bit. And I'm telling you this, it sounds crazy, but when you watch different shows all over, not just YouTube, but when you have those exact experiences yourself, it's very easy to do. It makes them easier to cope with, because many people have said, oh, I had a little friend when I was a kid, but nobody could see him. Yeah, that's right. You probably did. And the ghosts and stuff under the bed? No, probably not under the bed, but they come to see you, but they don't always live with you. That's probably my takeaway. Is that one? If you want to watch one of the best paranormal shows ever, look for Twin Paranormal. If you want to learn how to do ghosting, all you have to do is turn on your phone and turn on the camera and do it at night. That helps really well. If you want to do UFOing, take that same camera, aim it up to the sky with some Velcro, and then take the file and put it into your computer. And it's very simple. My credo for objects and orbs, which is my, or I would say not organization, but team, is that we're respectful to each other. We respect the science. We respect the entities. And when I say entities, I do mean ghosts. I do mean cryptids. I do mean extraterrestrials, if we have those. I also I believe in paranormal. I believe in extraterrestrial, but sometimes there's sometimes we think that there's something in between. I would call it paraterrestrial, to where it's outside. It's not inside. It's orbs. It's something. I also have those videos on my YouTube channel as well. Please subscribe if you get a chance. So I think that those are the glue that goes in between those two dimensions. I could go into two dimensions and all of that, but that might take a little bit of time. But I've talked to abductees. They've told me a lot of different things that are similar. So this science is very exciting. If this is something that you have always kind of wanted to dabble in, go for it. I would do it respectfully, and I would say prayerfully. And when you go in with respect and you go in with a good mind, then that's good. If you live in a home with a lot of yelling and screaming and stuff like that, I would ask you, have you ever seen any paranormal happen there? And 90% of the time I would say yes. I know because it happened to me. And it got me down into a really bad place as well, but we got out of that place. So yes, all of this is real. And I want you to be able to experience it on your own. And I think that's really about all I would have to tell you on that. So thank you so much.
If you've had a paranormal experience and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us by going to myparax.com. That's myparaex.com. Thanks for listening.